After this lesson, students will be able to write equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Do now. Try these two questions on your own, so pause the movie and resume when you're ready. Number 1. Write an equation of the line that has a slope of 5 and has a y-intercept of -7. So we know our slope, or m, is 5, and the y-intercept, or b, is -7. To write the equation of the line, we can use slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. Therefore, the equation of this line would be y equals 5x minus 7. Number 2. Write an equation of the line that has a slope of -3 and passes through the point 1, 5. In this question, we're given the slope and we're given a point, but not the y-intercept. When we're given a point and a slope, we can use point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. And if the question doesn't specify what form they would like the answer in, we can just leave it in point-slope form. Parallel lines have the same slope. So for example, write an equation of the line that is parallel to the line y equals 2/3 x minus 2 and passes through -2, 1. Well, imagine two lines that are parallel to one another. The slope is the same, but the points on the line are not. Therefore, when we're told that we're writing an equation of a line that is parallel to this one, the only information we can gather then about the line we're writing the equation of is that the slope is the same. This -2, however, does not indicate anything about the line that we're writing an equation for, because our line does not share the same y-intercept. So, we know that the slope of the line that we're writing an equation for is 2/3. We also know that the line we're writing an equation for passes through the point -2, 1. So now we have a point and a slope. Therefore, we can use point-slope form to write an equation of this line. Y minus 1 equals 2/3 times x minus -2, or x plus 2. So this is the equation of the line that is parallel to this line. Now, since our original was written in slope-intercept form, I'm going to change this to slope-intercept form just to show how this y-intercept is not going to be the same. So y minus 1 equals 2/3 x plus 4/3. Add 1 to both sides, which would be the same as adding 3/3. So y equals 2/3 x plus 7/3, or 2 1/3. That is not the same y-intercept as the other line, which had the y-intercept of -2. However, the slopes are the same. Now you try these two questions. Pause the movie and resume when you're ready. Write an equation of the line that is parallel to the line y equals -3x minus 2 and goes through the point 3, -4. Since the lines are parallel, we know that the slope is the same. So the slope of the line we're writing an equation of is -3. Again, this -2 is not significant to our line. Instead, we focus on what point our line does go through, which is 3, -4. So now we know a point and a slope of our line, so we use point-slope form. Y minus -4, or y plus 4, equals our m, which is -3, times the quantity of x minus 3. Number 2, write the equation of the line that is parallel to the line y equals -1/4 x plus 2 and passes through the point 3, negative 2. Our slope is the same, which is negative 1/4, and then we use the point that the line goes through, 3, negative 2, and use point slope form. So y plus 2 equals negative 1/4 times x minus 3. Now, perpendicular lines are lines that cross each other and form a 90-degree angle. The slopes of perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals of each other. Opposite means that if one is positive, the other is negative, and vice versa. Reciprocals is when you flip the fraction upside down. So you're doing both, taking the opposite and taking the reciprocal in order to calculate the slope of a perpendicular line. So for example, if the slope of a line is 5, then the slope of the perpendicular line, we'd have to take the opposite, so we know it's negative, and we have to take the reciprocal. So if 5 is the same as 5 over 1, then the reciprocal would be 1/5. So if the slope of a line is 5, then the slope of the perpendicular line is negative 1/5. Pause the movie and see if you can complete numbers 2 through 4 on your own. Resume the movie when you're ready. Number 2. The slope of a line is negative 3/4. The slope of the perpendicular line would be positive 4/3. We do leave this as an improper fraction since slope should be written as rise over run. Number 3. The slope of a line is 2/7. The slope of the perpendicular line is negative 7/2. Number 4. The slope of a line is negative 6. The slope of the perpendicular line is positive 1/6. Write the equation of the line that is perpendicular to the line y equals negative 1/4 x plus 2 and passes through the point 3, negative 2. So in this question, we're asked to write an equation of a line that is perpendicular, which means that the slope is an opposite reciprocal. So we look at the equation of the line that is given to us, and since the slope is negative 1/4, that tells us that the slope of the perpendicular line that we're trying to write would be positive 4. Again, just like with parallel lines, this y-intercept of 2 is irrelevant for our line. What we need to do is take our slope that we now know and use the point that we know that our line goes through, 3, negative 2, and use point slope form. Y plus 2 equals 4 times x minus 3. So this is the equation of the line that is perpendicular to the line y equals negative 1/4 x plus 2. Those two lines will cross each other and form 90-degree angles. You try the next question on your own, so pause the movie and resume when you're ready. Write an equation of the line that is perpendicular to the line y equals negative 3x minus 2 and goes through the point 3, negative 4. Since we're writing the perpendicular line, we look at our slope and take the opposite reciprocal, which would be positive 1/3. We also know that our line goes through the point 3, negative 4. So we use point slope form. Y plus 4 equals 1/3 times x minus 3. And that's the equation of the line that is perpendicular to the line y equals negative 3x minus 2. One line passes through the points negative 6, 1 and negative 4, negative 3. A second line passes through negative 4, negative 3 and 2, 0. Are they perpendicular? Well, when two lines are perpendicular, their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So if we know 2 points that each of the lines cross through, we can use our slope formula to calculate the slope of each of the lines and then determine if those slopes are opposite reciprocals. So for our first line, so we'll call this line 1, we're going to calculate our slope using these 2 points. M equals -3 minus 1 over -4 minus -6, which is +6. This gives us -4 over 2, or -2. So the slope of line number 1 is -2. Now let's figure out the slope of line number 2. M equals 0 minus -3, which would be 0 plus 3, over 2 minus -4, which is 2 plus 4. This equals 3/6, or 1/2. So the slope of line 2 is 1/2. Now when you compare the two slopes, they are opposite reciprocals, because one is positive and one is negative, and they are reciprocals of each other when you flip the fraction upside down. Therefore, these lines are perpendicular. You try number 2 on your own, so pause the movie and resume when you're ready. One line passes through the points 3, 4 and 5, 7. A second line passes through the points 5, 6 and 6, 8. Are the two lines perpendicular? Well, line number 1 will calculate our slope, 7 minus 4 over 5 minus 3, which equals 3/2. So the slope of line number 1 is 3/2. Now for line 2. M would equal 8 minus 6 over 6 minus 5, which equals 2 over 1, or 2. So the slope of line 2 is 2. Since these slopes are not opposite reciprocals, that means that these lines are not perpendicular. Now let's try a couple word problems. A camp program charges a registration fee and a daily amount. If the total bill for one camper was $338 for 12 days, and the total bill for another camper was $506 for 19 days, how much will the bill be for a camper who enrolls for 30 days? Well, first of all, because the camp charges a registration fee and a daily amount, we know that this is going to be linear, because the registration fee would be like the y-intercept, and the daily amount is your rate of change, or how much you pay per day. Now, the information provided in this question is actually 2 points. So we can use those 2 points to write an equation of the line. Now we know that the bill was $338 for 12 days. So now we need to ask ourselves, which is going to be the x-coordinate and which is the y-coordinate? Well, the x-coordinate is always the input or independent variable, and the y-coordinate is always the output or dependent variable. Since the total cost of the bill depends on how many days you're enrolled, that means that the total bill cost, $338, is the y-coordinate, and that the number of days is the x. So one of the points is 12, 338. Now we also know that the bill was $506 for 19 days. So 19 is our input, and our output is 506. Now that we know 2 points, we can write an equation of the line. We start by calculating the slope using our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 506 minus 338 is 168 over 7, which equals 24. So we know that the slope is 24. Now we have the slope, and we actually have 2 points. Well, as long as we have 1 point and a slope, we can now write an equation using point-slope form. Pick either point to write your equation. I'm going to choose our first point, 12, 338, and plug everything into point-slope form. Now the question is, how much will the bill be for a camper who enrolls for 30 days? That means 30 is our input, or x coordinate. So we can plug in 30 for x and solve for y. 24 times 18 is 432. And then we add 338, and you get 770. So the total bill will be $770 for 30 days. Now you try this problem on your own, so pause the movie and resume when you're ready. While working on an archaeological dig, you find an upper leg bone, called a femur, that belonged to an adult human male. The bone is 43 centimeters long. In humans, femur length is linear related to height. At the same site, you found two complete adult male skeletons with the following. Person 1 had a 40 centimeter femur and was 162 centimeters in height. Person 2 had a 45 centimeter femur and was 173 centimeters in height. Estimate the height of the person whose femur was found. So we're given 2 full points here. Once you know 2 points on a line, since this is said it was linear related, we know it is a line, we can find our slope and write an equation using point-slope form. So m equals 173 minus 162 over 45 minus 40, which gives us 11/5. Now use point-slope form with either of the points, so I'll choose the first one. And now we know that the bone is 43 centimeters long for the other leg bone that was found, and so now we're going to estimate the height. So we plug in 43 for x and solve for y. So y minus 162 equals 6.6. Add 162 to both sides. You get 168.6. So the height of the person was about 168.6 centimeters.